Today, we're showing you the conventional way of wrapping a house externally using the Proctor Wrap as our air barrier against a more cost-effective, better method which helps with time, money, and will actually give you longevity in the product. Okay, now we've actually wrapped the top section, making sure that we're using the integrated tape. This will enable us to rip off these cellophane protections on the glue-loaded barrier to actually use the integrated glue as we go. Pulling this out and applying. So in this section here, I've got a substrate. It's a fairly easy process. But I come to a window and now I'm actually going to have a section that I don't have backing. So already I'm starting to shadow and I'm creating issues. Once again, I'm shadowing. And I've actually got areas where it's not bonding and I could rub it, but I'm not going to be able to pick that back up. That happens in between stud work as well. I've got a couple of issues doing it this way. You need to make sure that it's completely lined up when you're applying it. And you can actually have a look, trying to wrap the bottom section and the top section without wind is complex in itself. But with wind, it's such a task that it causes the process to step out and you're going to end up with multiple issues. I'll show you another technique very shortly where we actually will measure from length, height, make one piece up, which will enable us to fix at the top, rolling it out all the way till we get to the end, and we've pre-taped on both sides and use the integrated tape on a flat surface where we've got good backing and good adhesion. So if you have a look here, we're already starting to step out. Here we've got bracing behind it, so it's always going to be perfect. But if we make our way to the studs as well, and we try to make that glue bond and stick, it causes you issues. One person to do this whole wall will be a process. Back in our factory, we were able to measure height, length, width. We've cut 3 pieces and bonded them together. This will allow us to pin the top of the air barrier and roll it out as we go, allowing gravity to help with the install process. And if you have a look, we've taped the back, we've taped the front, and we've used the integrated tape, and we've applied it on the ground where the surface is completely bonded. The longevity of this installation will not fail. If it hasn't been done properly, you're never going to be able to fix it again. So we'll actually show you in the next step how easy it is now to wrap this house. At tightHOUSE, we've come up with performance solutions for using an air barrier on the outside of a house, and we've come up with this product called tightBRIDGE. We installed this on top of the stud walls prior to the trusses being installed, which will enable us to continue the air barrier inside above the roofline. This tightBRIDGE is the section that we will be taping our external air barrier to, and I've got a help down below, and we're going to show you the process of having 3 pieces of the air barrier previously taped. I've used the button at the top as my starting point, and I'm keeping it level on this tightBRIDGE, and I'll merely just staple. I'm letting gravity work through. I'm not needing, with wind, to fight against the elements to actually get good adhesion across all of my joints. And I'll merely just follow George all the way down and fix the top. Okay, so very quickly, I've been able to roll this out with the help of someone else. I don't need to try and go against the elements because you can just start to see now I'm starting to get a little bit of wind in behind it. Imagine trying to align the integrated tape in midair, and not only that, doing 1, 2 joins. This way, it's 100% installed properly, and all we literally need to do is keep rolling it out and allowing gravity to help with this install. This is a far better method. Time is money, and not just that, you're going to ensure that when you've applied the tape, the integrated tape, it is 100% uniform, and you've got a perfect seal on this air barrier. Okay, in under half an hour, we've been able to cover this whole side. We've actually returned it around the front, then stepped back in and got to the doorway. And this was all accomplished with 2 guys installed in under half an hour. Now we've got gravity to work with. We're going to start at the top and work our way down, pinning this all the way down. We're actually going to fix this with staples, and where every noggin is, we'll be able to install buttons purely because they're going to batten this wall, and this is going to have a Hebel finish, so we don't want to impact any of the surfaces that the carpenter needs to install to. But time, money, effort is the way to install this product. Pre-make it, guys, and install it in one hit. I'd just like to talk about an internal wall that comes off an external. Now, when we insulate the external wall, the insulators have got all these areas in between the studs to be able to fill in. But when it comes to an internal wall, the way that the frame is done, these sections always behind internal wall junctions to the external walls get missed. So we'd like to show you a technique of what we've actually done prior to the wall air barrier cladding on the outside, how we've actually insulated that. This is the outside section that always gets missed, and what we've actually done is filled this up with some foam. So we've got a good insulated area, because these areas will always be insulated from the inside, but an internal wall comes off this section, and around the whole perimeter of the house, we've made sure that these areas have been insulated prior to us doing the air barrier on the outside and the weatherboards. Okay, now we've got a window here. We haven't cut it out yet, but we're going to show you an economy version of Proctor's window detail, where we use a dry flash, we use U-Butte, which is a butyl tape. The reason why we're going to go with the economy solution here is because this is a direct cladded, no veneer building, and the actual windows, once they're installed, the plumber or builder will install a flashing over the top of that window. So that's our weatherproof seal. So we're really just concentrating on an airtight building solution. We'll start that process and go inside, and we'll cut this out. Okay, now we've cut this window corner to corner, and that will allow us the next process, and we'll pull the bottom and the sides, and we'll end up fixing them, which is first step. Now I've stapled the sides and the bottom, and all I need to do is just trim off the excess. Now previously, in Proctor's window detail, we would leave this step to the last. But with the economy way that we're going to finish this window detail, we can go ahead and we can fix that detail straight away and trim off the top as well. Okay, now we've completed all the steps. We've cut to the center, we've pulled the flaps in, and we've fixed it on all sides. Next step, we've got a gap here in the wrap. So I'm going to use a Proctor High-Tack Plus, and I'm just going to actually seal the wrap at the top to make sure that it's completely sealed. And I'm just making sure that I'm getting a good seal. Okay, now that completes the sealing process at the top, and I'll continue that on the other side. Okay, now I've taped both the top corners, and I've pre-cut a couple of pieces of Proctor's U-Butte butyl tape. This actually gets applied in this corner, pretty much the same way that we showed you in the Proctor's passive window detail. I just gently apply this into the corner so it's true and square to the corner, and then very gently, I don't try to stretch it too much, I just roll it over and apply with a bit of pressure just to make sure that I've got a good bond and it's sitting true and square. And I'll complete that process on the other side. Now we're going to use Proctor's dry flash, and we're going to come up 250 mil either side. This detail is completely different to the Proctor's passive window detail, but due to the way that the windows are being installed, this is quite adequate for how we need to seal up these windows. I'm going to start off installing this dry flash up 250 mil. I've previously marked it, just trying to keep it square and flush to the back of the stud. And when I get to the corner, I want to make sure that I'm not missing it and I'm at a true 90 degrees. Applying with a bit of pressure as I work it around. Making sure I'm nice and tight in the corner, and just work that glue and make sure you get a good bond to your air barrier. And usually I would use an applicator to make sure that I'm helping with that bond process. Now, I'm just going to get the knife, making sure that I start the cut on the outside of the frame and just cut it straight. Once I've done that, that will allow me to just turn the dry flash around and get a good contact over the top of the U-butte and onto the air barrier. And just to help keep it nice and bonded, I'm just going to fix the sides. And that completes the economy version of the Proctor passive window detail. Okay, so now here's another window. I've got doors. I've got more windows further down. I'm just going to go and cut all the windows, pull them all in, and doors, and staple all sides for the next process. Okay guys, just a quick note. As we said previously, multiple times, we've used the integrated tape. We've taped the outside and we've taped the inside or the back of the air barrier. We've installed it. Now, it might be some time before the builder actually gets to close this in. By taping it on both sides, we are making sure, depending on which direction the wind is, it's going to ensure that it's sealed, it's not going to give way, and we're going to have longevity on those joins many, many years after the outside and the inside's cladded, and we could guarantee that this is not going to fail with this system. Okay, now we've wrapped the outside. We've got our tightBRIDGE at the top. Now what we need to do is we need to connect our air barrier to our tightBRIDGE. So once again, we're going to use a Hi-Tac Plus tape, 75 mil, because we want a good purchase. And we are merely going to tape the Hi-Tac Plus to the Proctor CW and the tightBRIDGE. The tightBRIDGE is a product sold from tightHOUSE, but Proctor actually have a product called Proctor Connect, which is vapour permeable. This is an impermeable product, which we've decided to use in this circumstance. We've got the other side to go now. Once again, we've measured, we've taped it all up, we're ready to roll it out. Very quickly, we'll get the other side done as well. We're lucky we had a factory, but you don't need a factory. You can have a car park, you can have a piece of road, you can have, you can even get a broom out and sweep up inside the job site to make sure that you do this. But trust me guys, it's the way to do it. We've got 25 meters, I'm saying 25 meters, and within, I'd say 25 to half an hour, we've got this installed, and then we're basically just going to peg it all the way down, cut the doorways, cut the windows, job's done. We've got a little bit of breeze at the moment. If we tried to wrap that piece by piece, we're never gonna get those seams together. We are actually going to tape the air barrier to the bracing, which will give us our air barrier seal. And we'll complete this all the way around the perimeter of the whole building. And now you can clearly see we've continuously sealed the air barrier to the bracing. We've just got external and internal corners to worry about. Now this line right here where we've taped, it's open. So at this point we just need to make sure that this is continuous before we pull over the air barrier to continue the next step. Okay, so I've actually taped that corner and now it's going to allow me to just roll this corner over, and you can see underneath that the tape is continuous. And we've just got this little gap right here. We'll unpin the air barrier all the way down, and then the next step is to slide this in behind the brickwork over the face of the damp course. Okay, we've unpinned it and we've flipped it over, and we've just tucked the air barrier in and on top of the damp course, which the bricklayers have installed on this course, and they've run it up and tacked it onto the bracing. Being mindful that we've actually sealed it here to the bracing and to the back of the actual air barrier itself. And now by tucking that in, we just need to neaten up this corner, and you can see how it's continuous here because we installed that small section. So we'll just tape this up, we'll bring it back together, and then that will seal off this corner nicely. Okay, now we've finished this process and we've sealed this corner nicely. And if you have a look, you can actually see where we've taped onto the bracing and also onto the wrap that we've folded over. So now, essentially, we've got the tape like this, onto the bracing and then onto the back of the air barrier. So just to make sure that this stays in place and under seal, I'm going to staple this detail across the whole brace. And this is going to help with compression on that seal, and we'll just cut a small couple of pieces of strips over the top of it, which we will for every staple, and that will help with longevity. So, and it'll allow any moisture to run down here onto the damp course the bricklayers have installed and out any weep holes throughout the perimeter. Job done. So we've finished the detail on the outside. You can see up through here, this is the wrap that we wrapped the upstairs with. There was a process and a sequence for us and the builder to understand how we were going to and where we were going to make our air barrier line. So prior to any of the roofing structures to be installed, for this small section of roofing downstairs, we installed the wrap and asked the builder to hold off on these trusses so that we were able to get the wrap all the way down. Because these sections of a wall in a ceiling for a first floor always get forgotten about. We've actually wrapped it now. When the insulation gets installed, hot air is not going to get into that wall and the insulation is going to perform so much better. And then if you have a look here, we've used this timber and this tape to transition from upstairs air barrier to an internal air barrier that we are actually running across this small section of roofing, which will enable us to come all the way across, and then we've installed it to our previously installed tightBRIDGE, and all these details are on tightHOUSE. And if you have a look here, this smart wrap is continuous from the external wrap from upstairs. It comes to an internal Proctor smart wrap internal, and then it connects to our tightBRIDGE and then to our external CW again, completing our air barrier line. And then the builder is actually going to install a suspended ceiling, which will enable all the services to be run through a false ceiling and will not penetrate this air barrier. And please note, we've just installed this as a sample because insulation will obviously be installed prior to this internal wrap. So guys, have a think about it, speak to your builder, let them understand exactly what you're trying to achieve and the process that it needs to be achieved by. We're just about at the tail of it now. And if there's anything that you want to take out of this from wrapping a house, is that we did most of the hard work on the ground and we actually made it the easiest. Just look at how good this install is. It was very quick. At parts of the day we did have wind. If you're trying to tape it in midair with no substrate behind you, trying to get these integrated tapes and these tapes 100% true and straight, you're gonna struggle. This is time, this is money, and this is effort. And just look at the quality, guys. So if there's anything I'd take from this, try and do the hard work on the ground. And from us at Efficiency Matrix and tightHOUSE, have fun wrapping.